Welcome to some new r/malicious compliance stories, where people comply to the letter, but not the spirit of a request. I hope you had a great day. The first story is called Can't Drink Here. Back in my mid-20s, I used to wait tables at this restaurant in my hometown. The money was good and I got along well with everyone there. Usually, after our shift, a few of the servers would sit at the bar and have a few drinks to wind down. You figure why go to another bar when there's a bar right here? We always tipped well and nothing was ever an issue. Until one day when the owner out of nowhere decided that employees weren't allowed to drink at the bar anymore. Now I completely understand this is a normal rule in other bars and the owner was well within his rights, but I just didn't see where this came from. I asked the manager if we did anything wrong to warrant the rule change. He said the owner was just being a jerk. He told me he tried to talk him out of it because there was no reason, but the owner just wanted to make his presence known. Okay, he's within his right to. However, what he didn't count on was Thursday nights and my friends. Back then, my friends were in a punk band and had practice every Thursday night. I would work every Thursday night and they would meet up with me at my bar and grab a drink with me after my shift. And usually they'd bring their girlfriends, friends and whoever was hanging around. My friends pretty much made the bar's Thursday night as busy as a Friday or a Saturday. And when I tell you we could drink, oh, we could drink. And of course, everyone tipped generously. So when I told them I wasn't allowed to drink at my bar anymore after my shift, they were as mad as I was. My buddy Bob was like, "Wait, so there's no point to go to your bar and then for all of us to go to another bar after you are done so you can join us? We might as well just go to another bar and you can meet up with us after." It was the most logical solution. There was another bar around the corner. So come Thursday around 9 PM, I'm finishing up my shift as my manager approaches me. He looks at the empty bar and asks, "Hey man, are your friends on their way? They are usually 3 drinks in by now." I reply, "Oh, actually they are 4 drinks in. They are at the bar around the corner." My manager is dumbfounded. "Wait, what? Why aren't they drinking here?" I calmly tell him, "Well, they want to drink with me and I'm not allowed to drink here. Now, if you excuse me, there's a pint of my favorite beer waiting for me around the corner." I walked out and joined my friends for a fun night. Now, I must admit, I feel bad for the bartender who usually worked Thursday nights. She had no part in the decision and her tips suffered because of our move. But that's on management, not me. After a few weeks, the owner noticed the dip in sales on Thursday nights and said we were allowed to drink at our bar again. However, the damage was done. We found out that not only did the bar around the corner has all the beers we usually drink, but they were also much cheaper. We also struck up a great friendship with the bartenders. We found our new hangout spot. There was no reason to go back. The next story is called Fill It All the Way. When I was a teenager, I worked at a bread-based fast casual dining establishment. I was a quick study, a hard worker and good with the customers. I was also one of the few people there that knew how to work every station. At some point, a new manager is hired. We'll call her Jane. Jane was mean, and she had little regard for food safety rules. For example, she rarely changed her gloves, and I don't recall ever seeing her wash her hands for longer than 2 seconds. No soap. She also had a bad habit of eating on the line. For those familiar with these types of bread-based fast casual cafes, customers can pretty easily see you when you are on the line. Even if they couldn't, you are not supposed to eat there anyway. One night we are closing and she's in rare form. I was in charge of closing down the coffee and condiment station. This included refilling the condiment/utensil cups, which were set into a large wooden block and angles out toward the customer. I fill everything up and start to leave when I hear Jane yell, "Come here." I go over and she's pointing at the condiment station. I asked her what was up and she said, "You can leave before you finish closing down your station." But I am finished. The forks are practically empty. I then try to explain to her that the forks only appear somewhat empty because we put them prongs down. The pronged ends take up more room in the bottom of the cup than the handles do at the top of the cup. We filled them this way for several reasons, such as preventing people from being stabbed and preventing strangers from touching the business end of utensils other people will be using. I also try to point out that if you put too many in, then the next person to come along will spill forks everywhere, because they get tangled. Anyway, she cut me off and told me to fill the forks all the way and to just do it because she was my manager and that's what she was telling me to do. Okay, if you say so. I filled the fork cup up all the way, as requested. Even jammed a few extra rounds in there, just in case. Because even though the forks will now be a huge pain to get out, I didn't want her to accuse me of not doing what she asked. I tell her it's done. She is too busy rifling through the refrigerators under the line to care too much, but says I can go as long as the forks are full. I meaned her out, saying goodnight to people and gathering my stuff. As I'm talking to another employee in the back, I see Jane with some sort of food she's gotten from the line. I think it was a scoop of chicken or tuna salad, but I can't remember and it doesn't really matter. What does matter is that whatever it was, it needed a fork. I stick around just long enough to hear her pull a fork from the utensil cup, which was really the sound of tons of metal forks falling on the floor. This was followed by a guttural sound of anger and frustration. My minor malicious compliance complete, I very hurriedly slip out the door and head home. The last story is called Apartment Contract. The contract of the apartment I've been living for the past year recently ended. I had, however, forgotten of the 60-day written move-out notice until I was reminded by management 10 days before I turned in my notice. It is specified in the contract and it is my responsibility as a tenant to maintain them. But I was still livid at the fact that they didn't have the courtesy to remind me all the 3 times they contacted me about renewing my contract and me verbally declining. All 3 times they said they were taking a note of it, and me, being the fool that I am, believed them. Since I did not provide the 60-day move-out notice in writing, I was forced to pay an extra month of rent that, regardless of my moaning and crying, was not waived. Throughout my panic, they kept reminding me that it was in the contract and that they couldn't do anything. Since I had to pay an extra month, I decided I was going to do everything in my power to get my deposit back. I went through the entire contract. The contract specified that I was allowed to be present during the inspection, as long as I provided a written notice in advance, no date specified, and that I had the right to any information extracted from the inspection. The contract also specified that the apartment has to be left in the same condition it was received, and that I was responsible for any cleaning fees from services they'd have to use. I have to mention that I took detailed pictures and videos of the apartment when I moved in. Unfortunately, mine was incredibly dirty, even food on the carpets. I requested it to be cleaned, but they never did anything, so I took care of it since I am terrified of confrontation. But I still saved and recorded anything that was not okay, regardless of how mild it was. The day I read the contract, I emailed them, requesting to be present during the inspection and that I wanted a copy of everything obtained from that inspection to compare with my notes. They didn't respond that day, so I took it upon myself to email them every day for the next 4 days, until they got back to me with the following reply. Per the rental agreement section, move out inspection. You may be present at the move-out inspection if you notify us in advance in writing of your request. Turned your keys into the Dropbox on this date and never requested a walkthrough. The walkthrough inspection was already completed this morning, so I obviously forwarded all of my previous emails asking if those were not considered in writing. They then offered to redo the inspection with me present, but I was out of town, so I requested all the data they obtained from it instead, to which they agreed. To this day, I have not received anything from the inspection. But I did find out that they didn't actually do it until 3 days after they stated they did on that email via the bill they sent charging me cleaning fees and no deposit back. I was like, okay, since you are not going to send me what I asked for, I'm going to send you what I have. I highlighted the part where they lied to me about the inspection date. I attached pictures of how I received the apartment compared to how I left it. Very clean. And I made sure to include their timestamps. Advised that per the contract, there is no reason for them to charge me cleaning fees, since it was in better condition than received. I also demanded my deposit back and sent them receipts of all products I used to clean their apartment, including a new vacuum, so they could refund me at their earliest convenience. Else, I'd contact corporate directly. I also advised that I'd send them all the communication we'd ever had, the lies they've told me, and the rest of the images and videos I have of their apartment. I honestly have no idea if I would have gotten anywhere contacting corporate, but it doesn't matter, because within 3 days I got my deposit back, and I got refunded for everything I spent on cleaning supplies. And with that, we end today's video. Let me know what you think about the stories. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate the stories and today's video? I hope you enjoyed the video. If you like what I do and would like to support me, please subscribe and hit the like button. I hope you have a great day. Stay safe. Bye bye.